The following program is an NBC special presentation.
Good to have him back. Good evening. Tonight we're going to see some of the funniest shows that ever appeared on television. These Honeymooners were broadcast live back in the 50s and haven't been seen since. So for the first time in 30 years, let's share some of the greatest moments from one of the longest, noisiest honeymoons in history. Now your host, the great one himself, Jackie Gleason.
How sweet it is. Well, friends, before we go any further, I'd like to thank Bob Hope for that very kind and generous introduction. It's always good to have hope. And in appreciation, Bob, the next time we play golf, I'll give you 14 aside.
Wow.
Oh, that's good Brazilian blend. And now, friends, to get to business. Here it is. The same old dump. Wise guy. Sink, stove, and the good old icebox. Still here. You know, I met Ralph Cramden 30 years ago on Chauncey Street in Brooklyn. He was an ordinary, regular guy. He was a bus driver, living from one paycheck to the next. He was loud, boisterous, got into arguments and fights. But he always had big dreams. Big, big dreams. The only trouble was, he had a bigger appetite than he had dreams. And whenever Alice would put him on a diet, he'd go crazy. He'd turn into a maniac. Of course, Ralph was a very sensitive man. And as all sensitive people, he had a very low threshold for pain. The Honeymooners were always broadcast live. And I never liked to rehearse too much. So when the show was on, sometimes things would go wrong. Like the curtain wouldn't go up, the doors would jam, and we had a lot of trouble opening things. And in one show, which you'll see at the end of this clip, my fly was open. I'm sure that you're aware that Ralph and Alice were very much in love. They really loved each other. Of course, like any other married couple, they'd have their little arguments, disputes, tiffs. And sometimes Ralph would even raise his voice. But no matter how much Ralph would rant and rave, Alice always kept her cool. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce the young lady that survived all of those scenes. She's one of the great comedians and actresses that I've ever known, of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, Audrey Meadows.
Great to be here.
Well, thank you.
You know something, Ralph? I mean, Jackie.
Yes.
Old habits are hard to break, you see. I do believe you've lost a little weight.
You're still trying to get to the moon, aren't you? Sure, I lost weight. I want to ask you something, Ord. Why did Alice put up with all those threats from Ralph?
Oh, I don't think Ralph ever fooled Alice for a minute.
Yeah, he was king of the castle.
Well, that's what he said, but Alice was the strong one. She knew he was just a little boy at heart, wandering around in the dark ages of male supremacy. But there was one showdown when Ralph really buckled. Alice really had him on the ropes. Do you remember that one, Jack? That was the time that Ralph overheard Alice and Trixie rehearsing the play. And as usual, Ralph jumped to conclusions.
Oh, yeah.
Don't try to...
I gotta go along with you. You did come out ahead in that one. But you didn't always come out ahead.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. How about the time Norton and Ralph were rehearsing their Laurel and Hardy act for the Raccoon Convention?
Oh, please. Please, I don't think I could stand to see that. I could taste that pie for a week.
Oh, it was good.
Coming up, Jackie introduces some classic bits with Art Carney.
Aside from Alice, Norton was Ralph's best friend. Of course, Ralph wasn't too bright. But alongside of Norton, he was Einstein. And some of their small talk was particularly astute, edifying. I happen to be the luckiest actor in the world to have a guy like Art Carney to work with me. He is undoubtedly one of the all-time great comedians and one of the finest actors that you'll ever see. And on top of all that, Ed Norton had the greatest body English of anybody I ever knew.
That's a good one.
Ralph and Norton actually loved each other. Even one time when they took each other to court, their loyalty settled the whole case. And I remember one particular time when Ralph was going to feed a little baby. And of course, Norton was there to help.
What good?
Ralph and Norton were always dreaming impossible dreams. And the more impossible, the better. And all of them were get-rich-quick schemes. And the big bucks were just around the corner. In all the years I worked with Art Carney, we never had an argument. And that's the truth. Not even a heated discussion. Well, there was one time.
Thought it was time for a little more refreshment, Jack.
Oh, you're good. Good. All through their married life, Ralph would give Alice anything she wanted. As a matter of fact, through their whole marriage, he gave her a blank check.
Mm-hmm. That's the word, blank. And the flat that they lived in. You never knew when the stove was going to fall apart or the water pipes at the sink were going to explode. The flat, the neighbors, the strangers that showed up, the whole atmosphere, it was a madhouse.
I thought you'd like to have a little booze, coffee.
Oh, thank you.
As everyone knows, Ord, Ralph and Norton belonged to a lodge, the Raccoon.
Oh, yes, the Raccoons. They were beautiful. They had secret handshakes and privileges that went with the membership. If you were made Raccoon of the Year, you had special privileges. You could open the first clam at the annual clam bake. Your wife could get a free burial with her husband at the Raccoon National Cemetery in Bismarck, North Dakota.
Good heavens.
Those were the days of live television when anything could happen. And incidentally, there were no laugh tracks in those days. We got laughs the old-fashioned way. We earned them. I remember one week we had a very complicated plot. Without knowing it, Ralph was conned into doubling for a look-alike big shot that the mob was going to kill. It was a long sketch, and we never got to finish it. We just went right off the air.
Thank you. Oh, you were a good group. I want to thank you. That's our show, and we hope you had some fun. And Audrey, baby, you're the greatest.
Coming up, don't miss an NBC World Premiere movie. It's all here. The lust, the betrayal, and murder. When the original cast returns to Peyton Place, The Next Generation, next.
I'm Bryant Gumbel. Tomorrow morning on Today, Gary Dotson and Kathy Carl Webb.
I'm Jane Pauley. We'll tour the Ford Presidential Museum with Susan Ford Vance.
That's tomorrow morning on Today.
Tuesday in an all-new Riptide when the boys take on some cheesy smugglers.
It was probably Swiss.
They blow holes in a sharp operation.
It's a good idea.
Tuesday, an all-new Remington Steele while Laura plays in
Mexico City.
Remington loses the agency.
What?
Is he leaving Laura for good? Tuesday.
This is NBC News Digest, sponsored by MasterCard. Here is Chuck Scarborough, NBC News.
Good evening. A violent confrontation between police and the radical group called MOVE has a Philadelphia neighborhood in flames tonight. The fire began after a police helicopter dropped a bomb on the roof of the row house in which a group had barricaded itself. The bombing followed 2 gun battles and assaults on the house with tear gas and water cannon. Police believe 5 adults and 10 children were in the house. So far, only 1 woman and 2 children are known to have gotten out. 1 child, a 9-year-old, is reportedly severely burned. Now this.
Before I travel anywhere, I always do a double take. MasterCard and MasterCard traveler's checks.
The FBI has thwarted a plot by Indian Sikh terrorists in the United States to assassinate Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi during a June state visit here. I'm Chuck Scarborough in New York. More news later on this NBC station.
Show me a great tasting burger and I'll show you a smile.
The all-new sirloin steak burger from Friendly. The taste will make you smile.
You think so?
Sure. Friendly turns 100% sirloin steak into our new sirloin steak burger.
Looks great.
Tastes great. One of the new foods on our new menu.
The all-new sirloin steak burger from Friendly.
What a taste.
The taste will make you smile.
Nobody takes the tension out of today's hectic lifestyles like WLIF FM 102. Baltimore's only easy listening station. FM 102. With music that smooths away the ragged edges of your day.
You are the sun, I am the moon. You are the words, I am the tune. Play me.
We'll keep playing your kind of music on WLIF FM 102. The beautiful place in your life.
Behind closed doors in Annapolis, the latest on the old court plan tonight on Nightside at 11.
NBC World Movie Premiere. The most sinful town in America is shattered by a beautiful stranger's return.
Allison.
Will she expose the years of lust?
Come back to bed.
Betrayal.
Come on, shall we?
Secrets. And murder. The original cast. An all-new production. All the passion. All the suspense. Peyton Place. The Next Generation.